Hello, my name is Clayton Graham, and I'm the director of YC6, and this is Devotionables, brief devotions for busy people. And today we're going to be looking at Psalm 31. Where do you go when life feels overwhelming? Where do you find your hope in the midst of difficult circumstances? What is your heart longing for in these times? Those are the very questions that David addresses in this psalm today. Perhaps you find your relief from these circumstances, hoping for better outcomes in life. Maybe it's a promotion at work or a better paying job that you've been applying for. If you could just achieve these things, then you would have greater resources to shield you from some of the difficult circumstances in life. Or perhaps maybe if you just held a higher place of influence where you find yourself, whether it be at your job, in your circle of friends, or maybe even at church. If you just held higher influence with the people around you, then maybe you would begin to improve your own life circumstances and again, remove yourself and be able to have control over your circumstances so that you wouldn't endure hardships. The thing is that David had these very things, and yet he still knew hardships and trials and grief in life. When we reflect on David's life and he writes this psalm, he has endured many hardships. There are seasons in his life where he was running away from Saul, who he faithfully served, and Saul sought to repay that faithfulness by trying to take his life. He grieves the loss of his friend Jonathan, even though it is a time in his life where he sees the fulfillment of God's faithfulness in becoming king of Israel. Or perhaps maybe David is writing this psalm reflecting on when Absalom, his own son, seeks to take the throne from him. And David flees from Jerusalem in the middle of the night in shame and with insults being hurled at him. When David reflects on his life, he writes that he has enemies who have hidden a net or a snare for him. He describes his life as afflicted and that his soul is very distressed. In this psalm, he describes that his whole body has felt the effect of grieving, saying that his life is spent with sorrow, that his eye is wasted from grief, his strength fails, and his bones waste away. He also describes that he's been mocked by his adversaries and abandoned by his friends, and those who know him have thrown him aside. David knew grief. So where does David go when he experiences these things? What is at the very forefront of David's heart? Well, he says in this psalm, "In you, O Lord, do I take refuge." He says, "Be a rock of refuge for me, a strong fortress to save me." He says, "For you are my rock and my fortress. For you are my refuge. Into your hands I commit my spirit. You have redeemed me, O Lord, faithful God." He says, "But I trust in you, O Lord. I say, you are my God. My times are in your hand. Rescue me from the hand of my enemies and from my persecutors." David finds his relief in the Lord. He finds his refuge in the Lord. A refuge is a place of defense, a place that you retreat to in order to endure the hardships of life. It's a place that provides strength and stability. In a refuge, you wait. And David, as he reflects on his life, he reflects on times where he had to wait on the Lord to redeem him. Your circumstances in life don't magically change or go away just because you pray or just because you seek to take action and be obedient to the Lord in certain situations in life, but you endure them until they pass. You retreat to the Lord. And in reflecting on how the Lord has been faithful and being a refuge to David, he says in the psalm, "Oh, how abundant is your goodness, which you have stored up for those who fear you, and worked for those who take refuge in you, in the sight of the children of mankind. In the cover of your presence, you hide them from the plots of men. You store them in your shelter from the tongues of strife." David reflects on these things and says, "Blessed be the Lord." Where do you find your refuge today? Do you try to find it in things that are fleeting and temporary and don't provide any true stability or strength? Or do you find it in God? In reflecting on this psalm, one author put it this way: have you learned to lift your quest for a stable refuge from all the things of this earth to the one true refuge? The one that will never let you down or disappoint you. The one refuge that will hide you in safety and security when you have failed it. Be strong. Let your heart take courage, all you who wait for the Lord.